I was feeling for you because I thought, oh, you hear about these people who have their Google existence fucked up,
Yeah.
and it sounds like that's what happened to you. So
Yeah. So I and it's actually I'm struggling with. There's been 2 work connections that have been kind of messed up, and I'm not sure if the relationships are going to be repairable or not. I imagine they will be. I just have to get through to them and convince them it wasn't me being lazy or what's the just unresponsive, So
yeah,
yeah. So I what happened was, I don't know how long it was now, a week and a half ago. It's hard to, time's weird right now. It was, that wasn't the weekend that just passed. It was the weekend before that. I was doing some paperwork and emailing out to customers on Sunday night. And then I, all of a sudden this weird page popped up in the middle of me doing my work. And I was like, I didn't even read it. I was like, that's not what I wanted. And I would close the tab and reopen the tab and hit Gmail in the top corner. And it would give me the same message again. I did it like 3 or 4 times before I read it. And it was, it says, your account has been suspended due to suspected spamming.
oh god,
And I'm like, well, what do you mean spamming? I haven't been spamming anybody. What the hell's going on here? So I immediately wrote an appeal because a little button pops up and says, if you think this has been an error, write an appeal. So I write some email, really, you only have 500 characters, so you can't say much. But in the appeal I wrote, I've been suspected of spamming. I haven't been spamming or doing anything untoward or illegal with my account. I need this for work. This is a small business I've started, and this is going to be very harmful to me. Please give me back my account as soon as possible. And I didn't hear anything for days, and I was freaking out. Trying to get someone at Google on the phone. It's not difficult. I should say it's not difficult. It's incredibly difficult. But for someone like me who has a Google One subscription and YouTube Music and all that kind of stuff like that, I do have some channels for customer service to get through to them. But the every channel I had to get through to Google they didn't care about my email problem. They're like, no, we're a storage expert. I'm here to help you with your Google storage, and I'm here to help with your music subscription. I'm here to help with your speakers that you own, but not Gmail. That's not a thing, that we care about. And then I would explain to them what's going on, and they'd say, well, there's an appeal process for it. Just submit an appeal. And it was like talking to a robot at that point. They would just keep repeating, use the appeal process. There's an appeal process. And I kept saying, I realize that, and I'm not hearing from anybody. And then at one point, a button popped up that said, change your contact email so that someone can actually get a hold of you. So I thought it meant anybody that emailed my work email would be able to get a hold of me, but it was just in case Google had to respond to my appeal. That's the only reason you would change your email address. So I changed the contact email to my personal email, and then I wrote in there, another appeal, because that appeal got denied. I just didn't know it because the response never went to me. So eventually another button popped up saying, submit another appeal. Because after a certain amount of time, regardless if they reject it or not, after a certain amount of time, you can submit another appeal. So I did. And this one was much more professional sounding and polite, explaining the exact same thing essentially. And I don't know, 48 hours later or so, it got rejected. And so I'm on all these forums searching like what I could have possibly done. And they just keep saying like, you can't talk to anybody about it, but just explain in the appeal what you did wrong and promise you won't do it again. And maybe they'll give you back your account. And I was like, I'm thinking about it like all day long. That's all I can think about. I'm sleeping, like laying in bed trying to think about what have I done? What have I done to upset Google? And I kept thinking of different options of what I've done. Like I kept saying to them, I send customers invoices. I have templates I use, right? Like a template for someone who owes me money, a template for someone who just paid me money, a template for somebody who just their parts for the broken appliance have just arrived, so I can schedule a meeting with them. All these different templates. And so I'm thinking like that must be what it is. Every email I send out is kind of the same. Like it's not all of them, but a lot of the emails I send out look the same as the previous one. It's different name, different email address, and a different invoice, but otherwise it's the same. So I'm like explaining this in my appeals. I'm thinking like maybe it's because I went from doing nothing to doing a lot of things in a short period of time. I'm seeing people say that kind of stuff. Like, if you've opened a new account and just start sending hundreds of emails, they're going to get upset. And I'm like, in this month period of owning this email address, I have only sent out maybe 100 emails, right? So not hundreds a day, and I'm looking online and they're saying like, try not to send more than 500 emails a day on a new email address. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere near all these things, and then I thought, and then I'm reading through all the terms and conditions, and there's something in there about using AI to send bulk emails and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, well, I did use, I used Google AI, Gemini, because I have a free subscription. Well, I shouldn't say free. It's part of my Google One subscription. I get access to Gemini Advanced. And I did have like a paid subscription for ChatGPT for a couple months, but I got rid of that because it was a free subscription. I didn't want to pay for it. I don't want to feed the machine more than we already are. And so I went to Google and I was like, hey, Google, I want to do a template for this. And I give them like a little version of my template, and then it would flower it up and make it sound real professional, right? Because I didn't have like the creative energy in me to write these stupid templates. So I write another appeal saying like, I think maybe it's because I use AI written templates. I don't know what it is. And that got rejected. So eventually I got another guy on the phone at Google. What I did is I still had access to my services through my PC on Google. Like on my phone, everything was blocked, but on my PC, I could still go to my Google Drive for the business and my Google Docs, which was like godsend, because if I couldn't get to those, I would have lost my mind. And that's where I keep track of all my payments and incoming, outgoing money and everything, right? And in every aspect, whether it's inventory or business expenses. So, I signed up for another Google One subscription through my work email, but you get a 14-day trial. So I wasn't planning on paying for anything. I just signed up for a free trial. And then once you have a Google One subscription, you have a way to, again, talk to somebody. Like you can talk to a human in seconds. You just say, I want to have a phone call. I can't, there's nothing in the help form that's helping me. I need to talk to a human being. And then your phone rings and someone from India calls you. And I'm talking to this guy. His name's John from India. And
yeah.
And he says to me, how can I help you? What's wrong with your Google One subscription? And I'm like, well, I can't get into my email. And he's like, what do you mean you can't get your email? I have this, and I'm telling him what my situation, and he sounds very sympathetic. He's like, but I can't help you. I'm here for storage. And I said, I get that, but you need to talk to me about my email address. And I start telling him everything I've been doing with it. And he's just listening to me, and he's like, well, what else do you think you did wrong? What else do you think you did wrong? And he just keeps like grilling me. Like he wouldn't give me like any sort of hint. And so I told him everything I'd written about, and he's like, well, those aren't reasons to get your Google account suspended. Like you haven't done anything wrong as far as you're telling me. And then I mentioned that I'm using this invoice software called Wave app. And it's on Google. It's actually registered with Google. I don't think it's owned by Google, but you can sign into it with your Gmail address without having to add any sort of passwords or anything. And that's what I use for my invoicing. They make really good invoice templates. They keep track of your customers and your inventory for you. The basic app is free for $20 a month. They give you a bunch of other features to do with accounting and more flexibility. And that's what I'm using right now until I make enough money where I feel like it's okay to spend $100 or $200 a month on a more professional dispatching, invoicing service, for the kind of work I do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm explaining that to him, and he says like, well, how do you send your invoices? And I said, well, when I make an invoice and I hit send an invoice, it gives me a link. I put the link in the email, and I send that link to the invoice to my customer. And then so when they click on the link, it tells me on my phone the customer's read the invoice. It tells me on my phone if they paid the invoice, And he goes, well, that's your problem. I said, what do you mean? He's like, you can't just send people links through Gmail. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't send people links? I've sent links to lots of people, whether it's to my Google Drive or YouTube or whatever. It could be Twitter. Well, I'm not a Twitter guy, but, if I were to use Twitter, that'd be a link I would send someone, or Facebook or whatever, like, hey, I'm looking at this on Amazon. What do you think? And he goes, well, you can't just send links to people on Gmail. That's not okay. That's considered spamming. And I'm just dumbfounded. Like, I've been using Gmail for over 20 years, and I've never had issue with sending someone a link.
Yeah, that does seem peculiar.
Yeah, so that's when it starts to get heated, right? I'm like, this makes no sense. And then he says to me, he goes, okay, well, you obviously haven't read the terms and conditions then. And I'm like, oh my God, this kind of nonsense. I'm like, yes, I've read them all, the whole thing. He's like, well, you know sending links is prohibited. And I was like, it does say something in there about sending links that don't originate within the organization. I said, but like, I understand, like, I'm using links for a ecosystem that's within Google, and it's, you know, your services are linked directly to this website. He said that's the issue. You know, you can't be sending links. And I'm explaining to him it doesn't make any sense because the links I send and all the Google stuff I've been doing through my whole life has never been an issue with sending links to anybody for any reason about anything really. And he's going like, we just can't do that. Like, you sending someone a link with a Gmail account is strictly prohibited. You know, unless it's a Google link. Like if it's a YouTube link, that's okay. If it's a Google Drive link, that's okay. You know, but anything that's outside of the Google ecosystem is considered spam. Something we can't verify. So I'm arguing with him and going like, well, how about you just go in my email, click on the link, and you'll see it's just an invoice, you know, for the said service. Like, my business is called Anna Ganesh Appliance Repair, and you click on the link, it takes you to invoice labeled Anna Ganesh Appliance Repair to an app that is well known. If you type in free invoicing app on Google, it's a sponsored link. Like, you guys led me to this company. You know, like, Google brought me to this company. So how can this not be you? You let them pay to advertise on Google, but yet I can't use them inside of Google? Like, and he just keeps like, and then he says to me, he goes, you clearly haven't read the terms and conditions clearly enough. I'm going to send you a link to the terms and conditions. I said,
the irony. The irony.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, excuse me? I'm not opening that link. I can't trust that. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, I don't know who you are. You called me. He's like, no, you called me. I said, no, I didn't. I went on Google. I asked for help. My phone rang. I don't know if some maniacs, you know, watching my computer, I got a virus. You know, maybe you're the guy who's been spamming with my email and messing me up, and now you're sending me links, some phishing link for a virus. You know? And he's like, come on, man, that's not what's going on here. I'm like, well, how do I know? You just told me I can't trust links and Gmail and all this stuff, and I can't even use links. Now you're talking about sending me links. Like, this sounds like a trap. You know, and he's like, you're being absurd. And I said, I'm being absurd? You know, you're crippling my business. You're picking on me. Then you want to send me a link after telling me I can't send links. This makes no sense at all. You are a hypocrite. Your company is evil. And he's like, what do you mean we're evil? And I'm like, Google is evil. Your model used to be don't be evil. Clearly you guys are evil. You're soul sucking, you know? And he's like, I don't understand. He's like, you're complaining about a free email address. I said, free email address. I said, free. You really think Google is free? I said, you guys became a multi-billionaire company off of a search engine and free email. Okay, it's not free. You know, you're clearly doing something to earn something from my existence, whether I'm giving you money or not, which I do give you money. You know, I said, I'm also calling you because I have a Google One subscription, which involves a bunch of paid storage, right? And he's like, yeah. I said, where does my Gmail storage go? And he's like, it's part of your Google Drive. And I'm like, and I pay for that. He's like, yeah, but the email is free. And I was like, oh my God, John, you're not listening to me. The email is not free. Even if I sign up for a free Gmail account, I don't pay for any Google services. You allow bots to go through and read my emails. You sell my information to corporations so they can control how I think and what I look at and what I buy. You do all this stuff. And not only that, you listen to us on our phones. You do all this crazy stuff. And you're telling me it's free? He's like, we didn't pay for it. And I said, what do you think paying for something is? This guy didn't give you physical money means that it's free? Like, you sell my soul, my freedom, and my anonymity for advertising dollars. Like, that is the evilest thing you can possibly do. You know, outside of, like, you know, murdering people and stuff, but you control the entire internet. You control how people think and how they move around, and you make it impossible to talk to somebody, and then you just destroy my well-being and my ability to make money and earn a living because I sent a link to an invoice, apparently. He's like, well, that might be what it is. I don't know. I don't have access. You know, and he's just talking in circles. So now I realized this guy wasn't going to help me at all. And I've already pissed him off because I'm telling him the company he works for is evil. And I'm saying things like, how do you sleep at night? How do you look yourself in the mirror? You're going around thinking, like, who do you think pays your paycheck? It's not free emails, I'll tell you that. You know? And he, so when I realized he couldn't help me or was unwilling to help me, I could tell that he wanted to get off the phone, but he couldn't because he's got some stupid rule where he can't hang up on people, I imagine. So I just berated him for about an hour and argue with him about the ethics of Google.
Good for you.
And
because they're recording everything, so that all gets back somewhere. It's all stored somewhere.
Exactly, right? I remember I was telling my family about this, and they're like, "Well, you're never getting your email back now." I said, "No, he can't do anything about it. I could probably threaten to kill his family. They still have to give me back my email at some point. It's got nothing to do with email with this guy. He's a storage guy. Maybe I'll lose my G drive, you know."
Yeah, he switches off your G drive.
But it was one I wasn't planning on paying for anyway. I was going to cancel the trial because I don't need 2 G drives.
No,
you know, and so yeah, that was like. So but at least I took that information that I learned talking to him. So I wrote another appeal saying, all right, I think I know what I did wrong, Google. I used links to my invoicing software to invoice my customers. From now on, I will download PDF versions of my invoices and email those directly to the customer, which nullifies how my app works because now they can't pay through the app. They have to pay me directly. And now the app's useless, other than the fact it creates free invoices and tracks information. But I've lost half of my payment app's functionality because I can't use it as intended because Google has decided I can't send links. But in the interim, I went on GoDaddy, which is where I pay for my domain, right? I pay like $10 a year for AnnaGadishApplianceRepair.ca, and they have a professional email option, right? So I signed up for their professional email, which goes through Outlook, and I spent somewhere between 4 or 5 hours at one point in that week trying to set up Outlook for a new email address, which is just service@AnnaGadishApplianceRepair.ca, which I like. It's more professional. And I could never get it to work properly. Like, I would send myself emails and they wouldn't go through. I would send out emails to myself and it would take like a half a day for them to show up. And nothing was linking properly. And I was using all the suggested DNS settings and MX settings and TXT settings on my domain and trying to link it.
It takes me back in time to the bad old days.
Exactly, right? And I'm buying this Microsoft service from GoDaddy and I can't get the link to my GoDaddy account properly. And they're like, just click this and click that. So I'm looking for all these different options on how to host it, right? And then someone, like, I'm reading in forums, someone goes, why don't you just use Google? Like, you could do all that with Google.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, I'm not doing that with fucking Google. I'm losing my mind. And then eventually, I'm giving Google $8 a month so I can link service at AnnaGadishApplianceRepair.ca to another Google account that's linked to my business now. And I'm actually giving Google money now for my Gmail account. But I'm still paranoid to send links. You know, so I still can't use my email address properly. I'm trying to get someone at Google to talk to me about it. I haven't worked hard enough to do it because I got everything working properly. And a couple of days after I had my new email address set up and I emailed everybody, because I was able to download my contacts at least. And I took all my contacts from my old Google account and loaded them up into my new Google account and emailed all the suppliers and companies I work for and customers and whatnot. And except for the emails I missed in that 10-day period, my email address was shut down because I didn't get, anybody that emailed me just got a message saying this email address doesn't exist or it's been blocked or something. So you don't actually get those emails. They're gone forever. So yeah, so emailed everybody and I got a bunch of friendly responses for the most part or ignored. But all the people I've been dealing with beforehand are completely fine. But the couple of relationships I built a couple of days before the email went down have not talked to me. Like, there's a warranty company here in town that, well, not from town, but there's the biggest appliance dealer in town deals with an extended warranty company that was like so happy to hear from me. And they're like, yeah, we're going to do business with you. The other company's non-responsive. They're terrible to deal with. We want you. And then she's like, I'm going to send you an email Monday morning. And then Sunday night, my email goes down. So I never got her email. And I've left her voicemails and she's just not responding to me. And there's also a company in town here that owns a couple apartment buildings and a bunch of other apartment buildings in the other town over. And she was all excited to do business with us. And she's like, I need you guys on call. Like, if I email you at like 3:00 in the morning or try and call you, would you come out and fix a fridge? And I'm like, you know what? If you're going to pay me right, like if you're willing to pay me triple my rate for me to get out of bed and go to town in the middle of the night, yeah, I'll go fix a fridge any time of the day if you want. And she's like, perfect. She won't talk to me anymore. She's probably because she emailed me or something, or she got a rejection email, and she didn't get the service she was promised.
Will you go to these people and personally repair that damage, or will you just have to let it go?
Well, I'm going to keep at it, because I want to make sure they understand what I went through, and
Yeah. Maybe that other company that someone was dealing with were also getting fucked over by Google. Maybe that's a common theme.
It could be. You know, I don't know. I doubt it because the other company's been around for like 30 years.
Oh, right.
You know, he's just old and doesn't care. You know, he's just like, fuck.
You are able to go forward now that things are kind of settled down a bit.
Yeah. And I got my email back a few days ago. My original Gmail back, right? So
it's back.
You know, after I groveled and promised to never do that again.
For God's sake, you're right. They are evil. They are evil, and it terrifies me that I might lose my Google account. You know.
Well, don't send links anymore.
I didn't know that about links. Is it because it's an active link? It's not just a link to a web page. It's a link to something that lets somebody do something. So is that what they're worried about? Do you think?
It could be. I never got a straight answer, right? They just keep saying you need to read the terms and conditions.
But they're recommending the software that you're using, so you would think that either they or the software vendor for that invoicing software would twig, you know, that there's thousands of, well, you have to assume there's thousands or millions of customers who are getting fucked over because they use what they've been advised to use.
Yeah.
So you'd think, but it's just another, I'm going to say it again, I know I always say it a lot, it's just the fucking bureaucracy.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Bureaucracy kills. Don't make any mistake, bureaucracy causes planes to fall out the fucking sky and gets astronauts stranded on the fucking space station. That's bureaucracy does that.
Careful, Perry. You're going to have a heart attack in a parking lot talking like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.